we're back. Hey, everybody, we're back. Thanks for coming back to our little channel. We were reviewing Cobra Kai, Season 5, Episode 7. You're here with Troll and Voice of Reason. Well, I don't think we're bad eggs. I think we just were kind of controversial in our channel. That's all.
That's the name of the episode.
Oh, the episode is called Bad Eggs.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you need to be more clear.
Well, I was clear.
Okay. Well, listen, we're talking today about apparently an episode called Bad Eggs. This episode was a strange intro to me because it was so over-the-top dramatic.
Yeah, it was.
With the voiceovers and like the moody music and Cobra Kai is taking over the valley.
Yeah.
And then there's that NCIS situation in the back room at LaRusso Auto.
Right.
Where they actually have taken, not only are they sitting in a dark room having this very ominous conversation,
yeah,
but they've actually got charted out all the locations of the different Cobra Kai locations. Yes. You know what I mean? Like
on an electronic map.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
Illuminating the room.
This is one of the many times that I can't tell if the show is doing a parody or not. It felt like a parody to me.
Yeah.
But there was no big payoff unless you count when the customer walks in and says, can somebody help me out? I don't think that's a big enough joke to make clear that the whole thing was a setup for a joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, right, again, the show does this a lot to me where I'm just sitting there going, I can't tell if you're kidding or not. What are you doing? They're so up and down with the parodies. Yeah. Anyway, still a fun intro, regardless. What do you think of this episode, Voice of Reason? Did you love it?
Well, yeah, I really like the episode. Episode 6 is probably my favorite of this entire season. This season is probably my favorite of the entire show. So, but this one had double crossing going on. It had life lessons going on.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I really did. I learned a lot from this.
Hope so.
Sesame Street and this episode were probably the two things that have made me the man I am today.
Right.
So,
okay.
What do you think of the title, Bad Eggs? Like, it's obviously a reference to what Chosen does with the eggs in his lesson. But do you think they're trying to say someone's a bad egg? What's going on?
Well, I think it's a reference to the lesson, but I think that it's also illustrating that some of the kids are really turning into bad eggs. Some have been bad eggs, and now they've turned around. But this episode, for me, really brought forth this, like, Kenny has really turned into a bad egg. He started out, when he was first introduced, he was so sweet and so endearing.
And now he's a rapist. Yeah, I know.
Oh, my Lord.
They should have. No, they should not have included it.
He's not that bad. Don't make me backtrack. But he's a bad kid, and he orchestrated giving Anthony this dirty swirly that just broke my heart, and he was so cold about it.
Do you call it a dirty swirly?
I don't know. They call it something. What do I know?
We always called it a shitty swirly. But dirty is probably a nicer way to say it.
Yeah.
See, you say this episode taught you a lot. It didn't teach you what to call a swirly with real fecal matter.
I swear at some point, well, maybe it's not in this episode then. I swear at some point someone called it a dirty swirly.
Is there any shampoo that markets itself as getting fecal matter out of a kid's curly hair?
I doubt it.
Because there should be something like that.
Someone in our audience can probably help me out with, is this called a dirty swirly or what was it called? But yeah, I don't know.
I'll tell you who the bad egg is, to me, is Kyler.
Oh, that is true.
Kyler could not be more annoying.
He's even worse in this season than he's ever been before.
Yeah, ever before.
He didn't start out all that nice.
No, from the very first beginning of season 1, that kid was a prick.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. All right, so anyway, other things in this season that were, or in this episode, that were very good. We get the whole thing with Johnny, Daniel, and Kreese.
Oh, yeah, that was brilliant.
This was great. So Amanda kicks the whole thing off by saying that they need to go get the other monster, right?
Yep.
You know, and then they go there, and something happened there that the first time I watched this episode, I didn't think much of. I really didn't care about that little moment where Daniel leaves to go call his lawyer, supposedly, which he's not really doing. And then Johnny has that moment with Kreese where Johnny says, like, Kreese is kind of trying to bond with Johnny still and trying to get him to not be teaming up with LaRusso.
Yeah.
Which you got to remember in season 3, Kreese was trying to kill Johnny, and then Daniel showed up and almost killed Kreese.
Yeah.
So it got pretty intense.
Yeah.
And yet here's Kreese acting like none of that ever happened. So anyway, so Kreese is saying to Johnny, it doesn't have to be like this. What are you working with him for? And then when Johnny says, no, I want to erase everything about you.
Yeah.
You know, I want to forget. I want every memory gone. That's a powerful moment. The first time I watched this episode, I didn't really take that in, but that really did get to Kreese.
It did.
And we'll find out in later episodes.
I think it got to Johnny too.
Yeah, I think they're building something up there where they want to make sure that we know that feud is still very deep. That it's not just a surface level feud over karate, that it goes a lot deeper and many years back.
Yes.
I think that was the point of that scene. And then, of course, we'll talk more in a future episode here about how that scene does come back around later on.
Yeah.
I love when Daniel comes back and he gives them. And by the way, we got to talk about the joke that was thrown in there. Guys, notice what Kreese says to Daniel. He says, I want a top guy, not one of your greasy cousins. Voice of Reason pointed out that's a reference to my cousin Vinny. Yeah. I didn't catch that at first either. No, it's got to be. That's perfect. Yeah. You're totally right. I just didn't catch it at first. But he says, not one of your greasy cousins. I thought it was just at first, I thought it was simply a reference to, Daniel's Italian, and that we had met one of his cousins before, even though Kreese never met him.
Yeah, and he's not an attorney.
Right, yeah. but I thought that was just kind of a play at the fact that us Italians are considered kind of slimy and, underhanded or whatever. I thought that was hilarious, though, when you pointed out that that's actually a reference to my cousin Vinny. That's perfect.
Another movie which I love.
Oh, yeah. So then when Daniel comes back, and he gives him the phone number, and then they eventually open it up, and he says, no mercy, motherfucker. Yeah. That was perfect. That kept me guessing. I did not expect that whole scene to go the way it did. I didn't expect that double
Johnny's reaction, too. He was so amused.
Yeah, he was very amused by that. He thought that was fucking hip. And I love that whole scene. I like way more than I thought I was going to. Going into it at first, I remember thinking we were just going to go through the motions, and it would be predictable, and it was not predictable at all. That was great. I really like, too, that Kreese just knows Terry after knowing him so long. Yeah. That he knows without being around and hearing Terry say, this is what I'm going to do, he knows that's ultimately what Terry's always wanted. Yep. He wants to get up to this Maikai Taikai thing.
They're BFFs.
Yeah. So, all right, how about the kids in this episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually I don't care so much about the kids' storyline. I care about the adult storyline. This episode, I cared about the kids' story. I loved it. I love that Anthony was the brains behind the whole operation when Chosen...
in Chosen's lesson.
Yeah, I love that he was the one who came up with it.
He put it together. Like, he heard the words that Chosen was saying in a way that the other kids did not. So he's the least experienced when it comes to the actual karate, but he took in the words, whereas the other kids were just trudging along and just going to repeat what they had already done and ultimately get the same result. And Anthony was like, no, guys, wait. He said blah, blah, blah. He got it.
But who planted that in him? It was Sam. Yeah. Remember when she had told him earlier... Yeah. To kind of outsmart. So she got the teamwork in this episode. Very Miyagi-like. The teamwork in this episode was unbelievable because just seeing Chosen work with the kids so well, I thought was really sweet.
It was great.
It was just so much fun to see him really just taking over for Johnny and Daniel and being that great of a sensei to them.
Where's my dad and Johnny? Not here.
Yeah, that's all he has to say. And he's so great with them, but then Sam plants the idea in Anthony, and then Anthony comes up with it and leads the way with everybody. Yeah. And there was so much teamwork with all these kids, and even with Johnny and Daniel, with Kreese, they kind of work together in that way. I just love it. This is really where the show, not just the season or the episode, but the whole show is really coming together as like the good guys are really banding together in a very smart way. And I love that. I absolutely love where this turns the show going in the future. The last episode started a lot of this too, and I think this continued that trend really well. And then on the other side of it, you see the whole lesson going on at Cobra Kai about students and teachers, right? Or leaders and followers. Yeah. Is how they did it. And you saw how juxtaposed that was because we had Kenny thinking he had to be the follower. That's a great point in life and in business too. I think it's interesting how Terry's the businessman, and he was trying to say that you don't really get to cut loose until you stop listening to everybody else. It's one thing to have a mentor and get what you can from that mentor. It's another thing when you're sort of their prisoner. Is kind of how I took that lesson. Yeah, and he's right. And so I really dig that. I really dig that fucking Kenny eventually just really called out Kyler and basically was just like, look, you're a loser. All right, I'm going to do this my way. And he did it his way and he kicked ass.
Yep.
That was great.
Yeah.
And then the other side of that whole lesson was a totally different ending, which is where we had Tori really rising up and being a really great leader to Devin.
Yeah.
So that was really sweet. So you got to see how that lesson can work in different ways.
Yep. There were life lessons for the kids, like all the way around. The Miyagi students were getting life lessons. So were the Cobra Kai students, just in a more brutal way. But yeah, that's what I really appreciate about this particular episode.
Yeah, this was great. I really love this episode. I think for me, season 5, I've talked before about how the first 2 episodes didn't do a whole lot for me because I didn't really care about the whole Mexico thing. I just wanted to get back to normal. You know, fuck Miguel's dad. And then episodes 3 and 4 got a lot better. But now these last 3, 5, 6, and 7 are just phenomenal. This is really where we're on such a stride. I feel like. Now the show's done with all the bullshit.
We're
and now,
getting to the heart of everything and everyone in those 3 episodes.
Yeah. These last 3 have been absolutely phenomenal. So very, very, very good work. I'll tell you one scene that I thought was really just great. It's at the end of Chosen's lesson where he explains, it's a really great moment where he explains to the kids, like, this is what the difference is between us and Cobra Kai.
Oh, yeah, that was
right.
Yeah.
Chosen gets the greatest lines this season.
Yes, he does.
He runs away with this season, you guys. Every episode, I'm just enamored at how great his performance is and also how great his lines are. But when he says, I'm going to screw it up, but a mile deep and so wide or whatever, and they're this wide and deep, he really, really made the point well that they were really thinking. They were really in the game. And I don't know, you could take his metaphor in a few different ways, I guess. But what I took from that was he's saying, we really know what we're doing. We're working as a team. We're thinking on different levels. And they're just going to be doing the same old, same old. And I thought that was great. I thought the acting from the kids was great, too. I really felt like they were truly, every one of them seemed like they were truly in character this time. Yeah. Usually I don't think the kids act all that well when they're all together. Really? No, I don't. I don't think so. But this time it really, really worked. That scene I thought was emotional. That got me a little bit. Yeah. And another one that was emotional too was Kreese when he says, Terry Silver was just a skinny little kid when I first met him. He was full of fear. Yeah. And he explains him. And honestly, I think that gives a lot of really credible backstory to Terry because we already knew that from season 3, right? We'd seen that in old school Terry. But now we got to see a little bit more of it. We got to see how he becomes more snake-like. And we get to see that what I took from that anyway was that as Terry started becoming a little bit more manly and being less of a pussy, he also with that started becoming more selfish, more cynical, right, and more driven, and in a way that surpassed Kreese's own cynicism and more his own. At least Kreese stayed somewhat grounded in just wanting to have the local tournaments. He didn't necessarily want to think so big and get into such a level of, I guess, greed, right? Not that anything's fucking wrong with capitalizing and going to the top. Of course, that's awesome. That's how winning happens. But they played it in such a way. Kreese explained it in such a way that I think could kind of make you see the venomous nature of Terry Silver. I agree with you. It wasn't a bad thing to want to expand and go bigger and win a tournament that has worldwide, application. But I think the point with Kreese was we're not ready yet. And if you try to make that leap too early, too soon when you're not ready, then you could end up doing more damage. And he wanted to focus on building a strong dojo and a strong student in Johnny. One last thing. The scene I really love a lot is when everybody on the show all simultaneously clicked the like button. Yeah. Everybody felt, you know what? Let's give thanks for this great video. Hey, isn't this a fun video, everybody? Yeah, all right. We're applauding ourselves. Now, you gotta commend that. We're going to the top. Guys, if we can win this video, we can win the key video for the whole world, the grandiose YouTube.
We'll go into our own Sekai time.
Yeah, our own Sekai time. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Guys, click the bell, support the channel. Thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing here. Share the video. Yeah, share the video, whatever, and the whole thing. We just really appreciate you guys hanging in there. You've been here with us for 15 minutes now, so you must like the video. Or you're way too far away from your device to shut this off. Either way, we appreciate you. All right, so troll out.
Voice of reason out.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.
Bye.